And what we're going to talk about in this series over the next few weeks as we start to wrap up our year and get into the holiday season is above and beyond. Above and beyond. Now, this is a reference to Ephesians, okay? This is a reference to Ephesians. But when we talk about above and beyond, we really want to talk about Paul's prayer in Ephesians. And for the next few weeks, we're going to spend our time on 6 verses, just 6 verses. And those are verses in Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 21. I'm going to read them all for you now, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to focus on today. In verse 14, Paul starts out and he says, "For this reason I kneel before the Father, whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and how long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that ye may be filled with the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen." So we've heard that scripture before, and if you look at verse 20, right, that's what we get. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we ask or think, according to that power that worketh in us. This is where in the New King James Version it talks about above and beyond. Above what we can ask or think, okay? Above and beyond whatever we can ask or think. So what is that? What does that mean? Well, in a lot of Ephesians, in fact, Ephesians chapters 1 through 3 is a prayer. It's a prayer that Paul has over the church of Ephesus, okay? And when he talks about church, he's really talking about that church. He wasn't talking about all churches at that point. He's talking about that church, right? That church that was established there to go above and beyond. God can do above and beyond what you can ask or think. So when we look at that, I want you to think about it. Here's a prayer that you have thoughts about what you want to do. You have intentions. You know where you want to go in life. But the world has a good habit of adding limitations to what we can think or what we can ask. I'm not going to even ask for that because I know it's not possible. I'm not going to even think like that because I know I'm not going to get there. We are limited in our thinking. We are limited in where we want to go. Even if we get educated and go out there and get a skill or whatever we do, we still have limitations on, I know I can never be that, but I can carve out a good life for myself. And then we'll say things like, I'm too old to, I'm too young to, I'm this color, I'm from this background. You know, this is my makeup. My family only has, we have all these things that we reference. It's not as an excuse, it's just a recognition that the world is going to look at me like that. Oh, I can't go in there because I'm fill in the blank, right? So we all have these limitations that we have built in. But God says, and Paul puts it in here, he can do above and beyond what we can ask or think. Notice now, I can ask for a lot of things. I can think of a lot of things. And God can do above and beyond that. I've gone to sleep imagining myself as something that I know I will never achieve, just for the sake of, it's fun to think about. What if I was a fill in the blank? What if I had fill in the blank? And I'd be way out there. And this is in my age. We ain't even talking about when I was a kid. You know, a kid, you flying around, you invisible, and I'm Superman and whoever else, right? As you get older, you put some some of y'all still imagine you Superman. That's okay. Go ahead. But God can exceed that. Well, how? Here's how limitations work. We're going to put it in context. When you look at a dam, right? When they build a dam, holds back water, there's a lot of pressure behind that wall. And every now and then you have to release some of that pressure. The problem is some of us have built a dam in our lives, and we're holding back the blessings of God. We're keeping him from establishing who we should be because we don't feel that we belong in that space. We limit him because he may ask us to do something, but by us feeling shame, by us feeling not worthy, by us feeling even guilty, we can limit that. We don't go as far as we could possibly go because we doubt ourselves. There are certain things I know my kids can do and that I expect for them to do. And then I push them to do more. But one thing I never ask them to do, and I tell them this, is I never ask them to do anything they're not prepared to do, that I don't feel that they're established to do. I would never put my kid in harm's way of doing something just to say, go do it, right? I ain't gonna have you jump out of no plane you ain't had no training, right? You're gonna put some training in, then you say, go do it. My mom used to always make me uncomfortable, right? She knew she was making me uncomfortable. Anytime we went somewhere when I was young, go in the store and get dinner. I don't want to talk to them people, right? But she's already taught me how to talk to people. So she know I can do it. She need to put the practice in. And when you talk to them, this is my mom, right? She don't just tell you to do stuff. She play out the whole scenario. So the act of me going in the store to get the food will probably only take about 10 minutes. Her explaining to me what to do takes 30. All right. When you go in there, you look them in the eye. You walk tall. Don't you sit there. And if somebody coming out, you open the door, you hold the door, you let them out first, then you walk in there. When you walk in there, you walk tall. You look at them in the eye. You walk up to them and you say, excuse me. She play out the whole thing. I'm trying to remember all this. Like, now, like, is she going to be watching me? So I walk in there nervous and scared, look at the person in their eye. They probably like, who is this? They trying to put a spell on me because I'm buck-eyed. How you doing? We here to pick up an order. Alexander. Here go the money. Thank you, ma'am. Like, who is this weird kid that came in here? And then I come out, I did it, you know. But over time, you got more comfortable. But she wasn't going to put me in that situation had she not taught me and trained me on how to do it. So I love putting my kids in that situation. And then with Laura, I have to pull her back from the situation because I don't know what's wrong with Laura. But she do that stuff. So to put it in context, because ain't wrong with my child, but when I go to Lowe's, I don't like to ask for people. I want to find it myself. It's a sense of accomplishment. You know, I know what this stuff is. And then I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find it because I'm me, and I'm going to find it. I don't need no help. So I walk past 3 people. But if I bring a Laura with me, and this is a Laura as a kid, why don't we ask somebody so we can get out of here? Like, let me do it. I look around at Laura, next thing you know, she walking back with the man. There you go. What you need, Daddy? He here. You know, went and got a man. Yeah, I'm trying to do this project. I don't think that's going to work, so now I'm embarrassed because I'm a kid. That was my child. So I don't have to teach her that is the thing. But God is preparing you for something. But a lot of times we put a blockade in front of him to hold all this back. But here's the difference. When you first start out as a Christian and believing in God, his word comes to you like a trickle. It talks about it in here like baby's milk, right? And as it's coming, those blessings come small. Then as they get bigger, your mind can't necessarily comprehend everything, so you start to build up blocks. What are these blocks? These blocks are traditional. Okay, as long as I go to church, and as long as I do this, and as long as I do this, then I'm serving God and I'm good. That may have been true at one point in time in your life, because that's all that you needed. But now, God requires more action of you. But you are restricting him because you way back here, you done built your dam way back here, but God trying to take you way up here, right? And as you build this dam, sediment starts to build up. Okay, what is sediment? Just stuff, just junk, just gunk that you trying to do. When God trying to establish you somewhere, you trying to do things that the world says, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And you doing all this stuff to patch up or to make happen or to think you're progressing because you want to stay where you're at. One of the biggest things about human nature is once we get something, we don't want to let it go. Long as we hold on to what we got, we good. Now, I might want some more, but I'm not going to let this go to grab that. Because I got what I got. All this mine. And I'm not going to give it away, and I'm not going to let it go. So it has to come with me in order for me to get more. But when you notice when somebody has the secrets and they know that they trust and they have faith, they take what they have, invest it forward to get more. And for a brief time, it looks like they don't have much. But then when you look at them in the future, they have way more than what they had because they were willing to let this go. But we don't want to let everything go. We don't want to let what the world tells us to. When I say the world, I mean just people, just stuff, just the way society is, right? It's not bad. It's just that we have more faith in that than we do in God. And the problem is that pressure builds up. And anybody will tell you, right? Once pressure builds behind a faucet, if you talk about a big wheel that you're trying to let go, it's going to get harder and harder to turn, right? It's going to get stuck because you ain't allowing anything to come through. And then once you get it open, all that sediment comes out before the blessings come through. So what we want to understand is, where is God trying to take us? And how can we get above and beyond what we can ask or think? How is that even possible? So let's break this down. Go back to Ephesians. It's going to take us a while to get here. As you can see, we're building up the foundation for all this. In Ephesians 3, we're going to go through, today we're going to handle 14 and 15. It says, "For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name." That's not a lot there, is it? We usually going to read straight by that. And that's okay, because we're trying to get to the good stuff. But this is the good stuff right here. When we talk about posture in prayer, and we talk about the word kneel, kneel is very important here, because he's telling you, I kneel before who? The Father. Why am I kneeling before the Father? Because it's a recognition of his power, of who he is in our life. And when he's talking about this, he's talking about coming before the Father in such a way to establish where he is versus where the Father is, okay? So when it comes to kneeling, it's really, if you go back to the history of kneeling, let's break this down even more, okay? It's called genuflection, all right? That's basically the act of kneeling. And in human history, you kneel on the left knee before the king, or before the prince, or before whoever, right? Y'all seen that in all these old movies. You kneel before royalty, and it's usually one knee, and it's always the left knee until they tell you to rise, and then you're able to continue in whatever you were going to say or whatever you were there to do. But you had to have that recognition of who they were. Now, why do we do this? And the only time we do that today is usually when a man is proposing to a woman for marriage. And that comes from the medieval times of the knights kneeling down to a noble woman, all right? And so that's where we get the history from. And then when she says, I do, the man rises. Just tradition. Now, how rare do you kneel today? You don't kneel before anybody, right? When you get to work, you don't go by your boss's office and take a knee and say, good morning. And he said, you may rise and continue on your day. You say, I ain't going to be working here very long, right? It's going to be the last day. I ain't getting on my knees. But you don't get before your knees, really, except to pray. That's really it, right? If you on your knees, you either looking for something or something happened and you need some help getting up. That's usually what happens, right? So I want you to think about how rare we kneel, but how important it is. So we get down on one knee as a gesture of respect, of connecting to a person in a certain way. Now, this also comes from a nonverbal mammalian, right? We're mammals, way of offering oneself as a submissive person. So you will see animals do it, right? You look in the wild, you see a tiger. If one tiger bigger than another one kneel down, you see dogs do it. We all do it, right? That's just nonverbal. That's why it's innate. But you make yourself smaller before this person because they're bigger, to show them respect. Here's the one thing that we do that is very important in prayer. We get down on both knees. Notice in history it's usually one knee, but we get down on both knees. Why is it that we get down on both knees? It's a way of showing the whole self to Christ, of submitting the whole self to God, of giving the whole body to him, versus one knee where one can easily rise. When you give your whole self and you get on both knees, notice how much of a subservient act that is. Whenever you get on both knees before anybody, usually you're begging, you're pleading for something, because that person has all the power. Now, when you get on one knee, you're just recognizing power. When you get on both knees, you're recognizing how honorable, but how much power this person has, because usually your life may be in the grass. Or usually you need something so bad. Please give me this money or else I won't be able to go. I get on both knees and look up to you. That's not just a, all right, let me know when I can get up. That's a pleading, almost a yearning that you can't even fathom, to where you as a grown-up would get on both knees before a man. Why in the world would I do this? I have to recognize that power. So not only is Paul recognizing the power, but notice he's mentally recognizing the power, okay? He's not physically on his knees as he's writing this letter. He's mentally on his knees before God. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because you have to continually, not just when you're praying, but continually recognize who God is. Continuously recognize his power in your life every single time. So that when you go, it's not just a, hey, God, it's me again. You have to recognize the power. You have to kneel before him. You have to recognize that he's worth kneeling before. So he said, I kneel before God. For this reason, I kneel before God. How powerful is that? I don't kneel before no man. I've never kneeled before a man. Nobody. But I kneel before God because of his power and what it represents in my life. So when the world is telling you, you don't have to kneel, you don't have to do this, mentally I'm kneeling every time before God because he is just that powerful and he means that much to me, that he's worth both knees for me to kneel. So even if you done got a little older and to get down there, you say, I can't get down there like I used to because I'm going to need some help getting up. But we have to mentally kneel before God. Each and every time you see who he is and what he is, you mentally kneel because you have to recognize that power. Otherwise, if you don't recognize the power, how is he going to take you anywhere? You think if Superman, let's go back, let's just go into an imaginary world. If I never met Superman, and then I'm up on the Eiffel Tower doing a tour, and he said, hey, let's jump off, I'm going to fly. Man, I don't know you. You got on a suit and some glasses. Well, no, under this, I got on a full cape. How you get a full cape under them clothes? We ain't going to even talk about that, but okay. And you going to want me to hold your hand and we going to jump off and you just going to zoom, man, please, you must be crazy. And I'm going to leave because this man is crazy. But let's think about us in the world. We live in, what is it, Metropolis? Isn't that the Superman city? Okay, we live in Metropolis. It's been 5 years. We done all seen Superman fly and beat stuff and fight stuff, and he done beat Lex Luthor and all the other fun stories we got about Superman. Now we on top of the Eiffel Tower doing a tour, and Superman come down, whoosh, and we know he Clark Kent. He can have his suit on. Hey, Superman. He said, hey, you want to fly around? I sure do. Come on, let's go. All right. Woo. And we zooming around because why? We trust Superman. We done seen his power. Hasn't God showed you enough? Hasn't he proved himself enough where he ain't got to be like, well, you like, who are you? But how many of us are always constantly questioning who he is? We acting like he a stranger. Now listen, think about who you are. You are sons and daughters of God. The last time I checked, you don't trust too many more people other than your mom and your dad. Even if you don't have good parents, You know who they are more than anybody else because you've seen them like nobody else. Your kids have seen you in ways that your husband or wife hasn't because of how you act and what they've been exposed to. How many conversations you done had talking about your husband and your kids in there? Don't you tell nobody. And you on the phone. How many conversations they've been exposed to that you wouldn't expose other people to? Your kids really, really know you. Trust me, they do. Now, how many times have you said something, then get in the car and say your mind to yourself, and little JJ in the back kicking his feet? Ooh, mama. Right? Don't you tell nobody, but you know how it is sometimes. You ride on. JJ been exposed to some things. They know you. We are sons and daughters of God. At the very least, shouldn't we be the ones who recognize his power more than anybody else? Shouldn't we know him more than anybody else? Why does he have to keep reintroducing himself to us? Why would we ever limit who he is when we are the sons and daughters? We know him. Now, let's go to the next one. Told you, we got a lot in these little 2 verses. Ephesians 3:15. It says, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. So now we kneel before the Father, and the Father is from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. Now, why is this important? What does that mean? Notice it says family. Now, if we look back at the history of what a name is, today we can come up with some names, right? You see that word, and that word. You know what? If I put apostrophe in there, that's a name. Man, that ain't no name. It is. Just say it this way. It don't sound that right. No, it don't sound how you read it. You got to say it like this. It's like, boy, them teachers be going through some stuff, don't they? So, but names from an ancient standpoint, usually cities and places, they didn't just name their kid anything they wanted to. They came from a pool of names. So everybody had very similar names. You might have only had 100 to 200 names. You chose from these names to name your child, okay? They didn't get the rest of their name maybe until later in life. Because a name, the way that it was, notice we say Jesus of what? Nazareth, right? Jesus, son of who? Joseph, okay? A lot of the name, the reason why they were so long is the name told who your father was. It told where you were from. It told something about you, right? A description of your demeanor, your look, or your place in society. It also told your occupation. So the names that we have today, Baker, guess what they did? Baked, right? Short, right? What does that mean? He was probably a short guy. That's where the names came from, all right? So they were very descriptive. Now I want you to think about it. Break it down. You know how much power you have to be able to name somebody? And for the rest of their existence, they go by what you decided their name would be. I got 3 kids. My wife and I got together before they were even here and chose 3 names, right? Of those names, last I checked, they still have them. Now, from that moment in time, in May, April, and February of when my children were born, I got it right, didn't I? Yeah, I'm good. Don't ask me them days. 28th, 18th, and 15th in no particular order. All right. So when we go and we talk about the names, where these names come from, these people are still going by these names. Your name was given to you by another person. Now the world recognizes you by that name. And when you tell someone who you are, you use that name that somebody gave you. That's a lot of power. Now we talking about it on a bigger platform. God, the Father, who gave every family on heaven and earth their name. Meaning, not just a name, but that he had to know who these people were in order to give them their name. Because it's not like the names we have today. It's a descriptor of who they are. In fact, go to 1 Samuel 25 and 25. In 1 Samuel 25 and 25, it says, please pay no attention, my Lord, to that wicked man Nabal. He is just like his name. His name means fool. And folly goes with him. And as for me, your servant, I did not see the men my Lord sent. So as we see in here, here's a man named Nabal. That's a rough name to have, right? Now notice it's Nabal back then. You said, that don't sound too bad. But what if you met somebody today just named Fool? Because that's what it was like, right? What's up, Fool? Hey, how you doing? You actually responding to that. His name really Fool? Yeah, his mama named him that. Why? He foolish, watch him. Oh, he do act like his name. That's what it meant. Let's go to Isaiah 40 and 26. Isaiah 40:26 says, lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these things? He who brings out the starry host, one by one, and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. So not only give him a name, but the appropriate role to go with the name. I just want y'all to understand who we are in this life with, who you have on your side. When we talk about above and beyond, you have someone who can do just that. We imagine a lot of things. So when you imagine in Superman, you say, that would be nice. You got Superman. You have super strength. You have these things. Now, the world can make you doubt it, but you have somebody who can take you out of whatever situation you're in and place you in such a great situation that you won't even be able to explain it. You can't put yourself there, but there are too many times, tried and true, that human beings have started one place and ended up somewhere else where the world cannot even put the path together for how they got there, because things just happen in their life that are unexplainable. Because God can influence and touch and interrupt whatever this world has in place that you're just dumbfounded. How did God do that? It don't matter. He did it. Because he is who he is. He says, I am who I am. In our Bible study, Adrian talked about it earlier. We just talked about the names of God, who he is. Then we went and we covered how he can interrupt. Right now we're talking about the great interrupter, how he can interrupt anything that's going on in your life. He can come in like that, beep, 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 that go on your TV, that's him. Say, hey, you need to take a break. I'm coming in with a great message. And this is what you need to hear. And that can change everything that comes after, if you allow him to. But while we holding him back because we can, no, Lord, I don't know about that. Oh, that don't sound right. Oh, I don't know if that's you or not. Prove it to me. He said, what you want me to prove? I'm your father, you're my son. What do you want me to prove? Right. So as we look at this, we talk about all things. So we'll read this one more time. It says, for this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives his name. When we are kids, we think our parents can do anything. We look at them as, my dad can do whatever he want to do, right? A kid, if he gets in a little scuffle with another kid and one kid say they're going to bring their daddy, the other kid say, well, I'm going to bring my daddy. Now, one of them daddy could be a little bitty man, and another daddy can be a big old man. To the kid, it don't matter. You going to go get your daddy, his daddy come out there looking like the Hulk. I'm going to go get my daddy, and your daddy come out there like, Lord, have mercy. What you done got me into? It don't matter to the kid because that's my daddy. And my daddy going to beat your daddy. My daddy better than your daddy. Y'all remember them little stories, right? Because as a parent, you can do everything that kid can imagine. You Superman, Superwoman, you great. What, you done fed them? You clothe them? You take them where they want to go? Anything they ever wanted or needed comes from you. There is nothing that nobody else gives them. And then they start getting out into the world and, you start realizing things. And then the limitations come. But with God, there are never any limitations. So all that things that you just put all on your parents as a kid, you do the same thing with God. But guess what? He can exceed everything you come up with. When you had a contest of my father greater than, Every example that you come, not only can he do it, but he's better than that. He's better than that. He's better than that. So when we look, God can take you wherever you want to go. Whatever you need, whatever you can think, whatever you can imagine, he can do above and beyond all that you can ask or think. And when you tie yourself to that and recognize what that means, don't just read by some of these scriptures, okay? When you recognize that amount of power in your life, don't it make depression seem small? Don't it make substance abuse seem small? Don't it make sickness seem small? Don't it make the relationship problem seem small? Don't it make all the money problems seem small? Because you got somebody so big on your side, you're like, oh, this is not a big problem for me. I'm going to be all right because I got somebody who can handle the situation from me. See, when you know you got a friend that's a lawyer, and not just any old lawyer, but the lawyer, right? We used to throw Johnny Cochran's name around all the time back in the day before he passed. But when you know you got that, then when somebody come and they try to pin something on you that ain't real, you kind of smile at it like, man, okay, we gonna see. And you say that with confidence. But when you ain't got nobody, and somebody say they gonna pin something on you, and you sitting there like, oh my goodness, who do I call? And you calling some injury firm that done came on TV like, hey, y'all handle. No, we don't do that. You don't know these people. You feel stuck. Even though you being wronged against, you don't have nobody to help you through this. So you can't go in it with confidence because you're nervous, you're scared. You got to depend on strangers and hope that they do the right thing. But notice when you have somebody with power on your side, you can walk into these situations that may not look great with confidence, knowing you're going to come out unscathed, that you're going to be all right, that God really do got you. And you're not just hoping for it. You're not just, oh, Lord, I hope you really do got me, like he's some stranger, right? You know that he got you. You know that he got you. I want y'all to really think about this, right? If you were desperate for food right now, desperate to eat, that's a core thing that you got to do. You got to eat. What if you had no money, no means, no nothing to be able to eat? Just eat. And it's just you. We ain't even talking about your family. That you sit outside of a restaurant, and as people go in, and this is not far-fetched because this can happen. This happens all the time. As people go in, you say, hey, would you mind? Could you just bring me something, man, a little snack or leftovers? It don't even matter, man. I'm so hungry. And that person may say, all right, and walk in that restaurant and eat. And that whole time they in there, you like, man, I hope they do that. You don't know them people. You don't know if they're going to sneak out the back. You don't know if they're going to walk out and pretend to be on their cell phone. You don't know if they're going to just walk past you and say, hey, man, I ain't do it. You just got to hope that they have your best interest and that they remember you even a little bit, that they take pity on you to bring you something to eat. You don't know what that food going to be. You don't know if it's going to be something that you like or don't like, but you don't care. You just hoping that they do right by you. But they don't owe you anything. They don't have to. They're not legally bound to you. You just hoping. That's a hard place to be. But you know what? A lot of us go through life like that. We going through life just begging the world, please, if I do this, will you please give me something in return? We work hard, just hoping that when we retire, we have enough to be able to last. We build relationships, hoping we have enough to not die alone. We go through life praying that we put enough into the relationship that they give us back a little bit of love. But we trusting that just out of the kindness of their heart that sometimes they just give us a little something back because we desperate for it. But when you know that you serve a God, that you kneel before a God, that you understand the power of a God who not only has power, but has compassion enough to say, I will never forsake you. I will never leave you. And you trust in him as your father. That wherever he go, not only do you not have to hope, but you're going with him. All you got to do is follow him. And you know he will lead you into greatness. That he will never take you anywhere to where you got to sit there and be like, I hope this works out. You know it's going to work out because he put you there. The only time you ever have to doubt is when you put yourself before him and don't recognize him and try to do it by yourself. Then you better question what's going to happen. But when you trust in him, don't ever doubt. Just go on with full faith. Hey, God, you put me here. Let's do this. With a smile on your face, with confidence in your heart, and strength in knowing that I will never forsake you. So I know you're going to take me where I need to be. Ain't that a blessed place to be? All right. We got a few more verses to cover over the next couple weeks to where we're going to really get into the power of God and understanding where he's going to take you above and beyond. And people, I can tell you, I don't know where God's going to take you, but I know it's going to be great because he's going to keep taking you there and you're going to keep going. You're never going to reach your destination, you're just going to keep getting higher. That's the beautiful thing about being with the Lord. He always keeps adding on to where people say, oh, I thought that you had reached the top. And you say, you know what? I'm going to tell you a secret. There is no top. I'm just going to keep going up. And unless you keep going up with me, you're going to lose sight of me pretty soon. So you better come on. So God has a great place for you to be. Just let him take you there.